Do you ever wonder why people act the way they do at a certain age? Part of it has to do with the developmental stage they're in. For the next few weeks, we're going to be talking about Erik Erikson and his stages of psychosocial development on Mental Health Minute with Kim. In this installment, we're going to talk just a little bit about what Erik Erikson's stages of psychosocial development even means. And then in the next few weeks, we'll go over each stage a little more in depth. There are 8 in total, and I'll do probably 3 per episode because I don't want it to drag on forever, and we have some developing to do. Erik Erikson was a German-American psychologist, and he theorized that across the lifespan, that is from birth to death, we go through predictable stages of development. Now, there are age groups associated with each stage, and the important thing to remember is that we're all different, and some people may go through a stage a little more quickly than somebody else, or may start it a little bit later than somebody else, but it doesn't matter. Everybody goes through these stages in a predictable order. And each stage, the person is presented with a crisis. And if they successfully navigate that crisis, the job, that's what a crisis is, the job for that stage, then the person develops what's called a virtue. And that means that you get a psychological tool. You learn something so that you can apply it to crises that might come up in later stages. Each stage builds on the one before it, and if you have a hard time getting through a certain stage or picking up your virtue, your psychological tool, then later stages can be harder because you don't really have the tools necessary to get through those crises. But the good news is that you can get through the crises at a later time. It's just that you may have some life lessons to go through and more development and learning to do before you can pick up that psychological tool and move on through the next stage. Erikson also coined the term identity crisis. Now, a lot of people, myself included in the past, think that an identity crisis only happens during adolescence because that's when we're really trying to figure out who we are. But Erikson called bullshit on that. He believed that it was one of the most important things that we do during our lifetime is establish our sense of identity, and that it is a lifelong process, and each one of these stages adds to our sense of identity, whether we establish the virtue or gain the psychological tool that we need, or whether we continue on through the crisis and end up maybe not having high self-esteem or not being able to form attachments to other people. Those also become part of our identity. So this is an overview of Erikson's stages of psychosocial development. Next week, we're going to dive in with some of the stages. I'll see you next time.